in layout, stop and go in nature, 4.34 kilometers, 11 corners, 8 right, 3 of them left, and 810 meter start finish straight before you start the climb up the hill into turn 1. 65 meters, 213 feet of elevation change around this Red Bull Ring circuit. Are we going to get more fireworks and drama in that turn 10? Most demanding braking points up the hill into the first corner, down the hill into turn 4, which is one of the most brutal braking zones on the entire calendar. So many hard braking zones, though, gives you plenty of overtaking opportunities. This one into the 2A, 2B chicane, which Marc Marquez did not pass up on here last year. So back from the summer break, it was back in dramatic fashion for Bagnaia and Firmin Aldeguer as they had a big wheel spin off the line to start the 14-lap sprint here in Austria. Bagnaia eventually having to retire with all kinds of issues on the factory Ducati. He's going for a 4th consecutive Grand Prix success in the main Grand Prix. A mistake by Alex Marquez exiting the chicane allowed brother Marc to seize the initiative in yesterday's sprint, and at the checkered flag, it was Marc who prevailed once again. His 12th gold medal in 13 sprints so far this season means Marc Marquez holds a 123-point lead in the World Championship coming in to our 13th round of the season. Never, though, has the 93 won a Grand Prix here in Spielberg. Got a bit of work to do, has Marc. He starts from 4th place on the grid. Didn't really knock him out of kills, though, did it, in the sprint yesterday as our drone shot picks its way through the lush green surroundings of the Spielberg. It is one of our most scenic, it is one of our most idyllic settings on the Grand Prix calendar. Always one of the favourite stopovers as we return to the Grand Prix of Austria. It is chapter 13 in a story of 2025 which is being dominated by Marc Marquez. He has now taken wins in the last 11 sprints and Grand Prix, and a first win here today in the Grand Prix of Austria. Well, it will be a 6th consecutive double win. Today is a very special day in the history of the MotoGP World Championship. It is our 1000th Premier Class race. And look at this, we have a very special Red Bull Ring Legends Parade. Our very own Simon Crafar on one of John Hopkins' Red Bull Yamaha 500s is part of this special demo. There is Si on the number 11 Red Bull Yamaha, and as you can see there, Casey Stoner, who's been present here all weekend. What a talent, what a star Stoner was back in the day. 2007 MotoGP World Champion, Ducati's first ever World Champion, of course, 18 long years ago now. It's a shock if Ducati don't claim victories and successes in World Championships. Of course, he did the business as well on a Repsol Honda back in 2011. Without any question, the number 27 was one of the very best to ever do it in Grand Prix racing. A journey which started all the way back on the Isle of Man in 1949. In our 999 previous Premier Class races, we have celebrated 122 winners, 279 podium finishers. Who will be winner of Grand Prix number 1000 after Harold Daniel took the very first all the way back in 1949. It has been some journey since then, and now we are set to laud the modern-day MotoGP superstars, just as those Austrian fans are too. With Marco Bezzecchi for the very first time in a Grand Prix, starting from pole position after his brilliance in Q2 yesterday. 4th at the checkered flag in the sprint, recovering from a pretty average Friday when he was down in 18th place. 28 laps then will be underway in, about 40 minutes time here in the spectacular Styria Mountains. Matt Burton, Lewis Sotheby in the commentary box with Jack Appleyard down in pit lane. Some stars of the past we were marvelling at there in our commentary box position just above the main grandstand, Lewis, but now it's all about the stars of the present and the future as Marc Marquez looks for a first ever Grand Prix success here in Austria.
Boy, was Marco Bezzecchi a star yesterday, of course. Marco Bezzecchi, winner of GP 1000 a couple of years ago. at Le Mans. Can he win the 1000th in the very top class here today? Well, it would be against the run of play, given Aprilia's historical record over here. You wouldn't say it's necessarily Aprilia's strongest track on the calendar, and it looked it on Friday when, of course, Bezzecchi and his team and Jorge Martin were both outside the top 10. Bezzecchi, though, not only getting out of Q1, but going all the way to P1 by the time qualifying was concluded on Saturday morning. But he has the top 3 in the World Championship, the Ducati trio of Marc Marquez, Alex Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia right on his shoulder.
Of course, Marco Bezzecchi, one of the last riders to actually finish ahead of Marc Marquez in any sprint or Grand Prix shape. Here is the Legends Parade. You can see there Luca Cadalora in the distinctive red and white Yamaha leathers. 250cc world champion back in the day. Of course, not that long ago, he was a rider coach and working closely with Valentino Rossi. Danny Pedrosa is here as well. I believe Danny's been having a few laps on Hiroshi Oyama's 250cc two-stroke. Great to hear some good old-fashioned two-strokes zinging around the Red Bull ring. A proper throwback. That was all to do with the start of KTM's Grand Prix journey, wasn't it? Now, in the present, well, they have got another superstar on their books. Pedro Acosta is in great form coming into this Grand Prix of Austria. Massive home weekend, of course, for Red Bull and for KTM. Well, he was third over the line in the sprint yesterday. This was a very aggressive early move he made on Marco Bezzecchi, who started from pole on the factory Aprilia. Never really threatened to get his hooks into the Marquez brothers directly ahead of him on circuit, but it's now 3 successive podiums for Acosta, who is being helped by some significant KTM upgrades that have filtered through out of the summer break. We've had to wait a long time, a fast, happy and smiling Pedro Acosta.
Yeah, some of the upgrades, in particular to the front of the bike, the aero upgrade, something Pedro Acosta's been calling for quite some time. All the way back to the Aragon test, he's been asking for that particular performance upgrade. He now finally has it, and Pedro Acosta hitting form at just the right moment from a KTM point of view with their home Grand Prix here today. Well, Pecco Bagnaia, boy, does he feel like he's away from home right now, having struggled so badly in the sprint yesterday, although he was certainly very clear in his mind that the circumstances were beyond his control. But no points once again out of a Tito sprint for Pecco Bagnaia. We saw him shaking his head more than we saw him making overtakes. It all began with this disastrous start.
That was scary. The more you look at that, the scarier it gets, particularly not just for Bagnaia, but 4 riders behind him who really had to check up cat-like reactions, I should say. I'll put my teeth back in, for the likes of Morbidelli, Bastianini, Mir and Marini. That was really scary stuff off the line. And Bagnaia had rear tyre problems throughout the sprint. He said he felt there was an issue on the warm-up lap. This is where he ran off in the braking zone up the hill into the first corner. It was a shocking Saturday for Bagnaia. Let's look at this. No stability whatsoever on the rear. It was like he had a square tyre in the back of that factory Ducati. A big shake of the head, and ultimately he called it a day. He said no sense in continuing to take big risks when that Ducati underneath him was practically unrideable. And that's what it means. That was the disconsolate figure of Bagnaia, barely able to contain his disappointment inside the factory Ducati garage. Are there going to be any crumbs of comfort today for the 28-year-old Italian? He's not finished lower than second in the last 4 Grand Prix here at the Red Bull Ring. He's won the last 3. He does start from the front row in 3rd place, but it's a big ask for him to get on par and beat the Marquez brothers once again over the full 28-lap distance.
What will help Pecco Bagnaia is that one of the Marquez brothers in question does have a long lap penalty to serve. You just saw him, Alex Marquez, as we look at some seriously illustrious MotoGP company legends of the past, who I'm sure could pretty much compete at the present. Casey Stoner and Danny Pedrosa here on your screens, 2 of the very best to ever put their leg over a Grand Prix motorcycle.
Career-long rivals, weren't they, those two, in 125s, 250s, and eventually as teammates in Repsol Honda in MotoGP. Can you imagine a sort of a comparable lineup to that in the Monday? I guess Bagnaia and Marquez, Pedrosa and Casey Stoner was just a mouth-watering lineup back in the day. Unfortunately, a little bit of sad news to bring you, housekeeping news. We are missing Maverick Vinales once again from this Austrian Grand Prix. Pain in his left shoulder. This is all, of course, a legacy of his Q2 crash in the wet conditions in the Sachsenring a few weeks ago. Missed the sprint and the race action in Germany. Missed the race action also in the Grand Prix of Czechia. Bravely tried to return to action just 5 weeks into what is going to be a 16-week painstaking rehab for the Spaniard. Unfortunately, Vinales withdrawing yesterday from the remainder of this Grand Prix of Austria, and also confirming he will not be on the RC16 next time out in Hungary. So a bit of a tough time, a tough break as far as Top Gun is concerned. You'd imagine Pol Espargaro might be seconded into action once again next time out at Balaton.
Here's a rider who certainly knows how to get through some injury hell. Boy, is the first half of this year been tough for Jorge Martin, but he's now getting that light at the end of the tunnel that he's been striving and training so hard for over recent weeks and months, and we're starting to see Jorge Martin show his undoubted class. Qualified down in 14th place, but a fine sprint performance. What would have particularly impressed and pleased him was his performance at the end of the sprint, giving another lap yesterday, and he'd have taken that final World Championship point away from Johann Zarco. He is only going to get stronger in the second half of this season. Can he get himself into that top 10 battle over the 28 laps today?
Superb in his Grand Prix return in Brno before the summer break, wasn't he, Martin? 7th at the checkered flag, which would have felt like a victory. We saw the sort of post-race scenes outside the factory of Aprilia Garage, what it meant to his crew, to Aprilia and to Martin himself. Well, you've got to go all the way back to his 3rd place in the British Grand Prix at Silverstone for the last time Marc Marquez really saw anybody's rear tyre for a prolonged period. Double wins in Aragon, Mugello, Assen, Sachsenring and in Brno last time out, and he's got half the job done already here so far in Austria. Let's find out shortly whether he can complete yet another double victory. Yesterday, in that 14-lap sprint, we should really have been talking about another stellar ride, another top performance by Trackhouse Aprilia's Ralf Fernandez, because he was running in a superb 5th. Top 6 once again beckoned for Fernandez before he had an unfortunate issue with the rear ride height device. Looks like he's going to be in the mix for the top 6 once again this afternoon. Let's get the thoughts of his boss, Davide Privia, who joins Jack.
Yeah, it's a brilliant performance yesterday from Raul until, as you say, the ride height device unfortunately robbed him of a top 5, and it would have continued a streak, Davide, of great performances and great weekends. It seems at long last we're starting to see the talents that we all knew Raul had finally been showcased in MotoGP.
Yeah, of course, this was the kind of a challenge at the beginning of the year, try to use his potential. Okay, we just, I mean, we are working, okay, work in progress, but yeah, this is what we always expected from him, and to be there, and the last 5 races in a top 10, and yesterday again was in a top 5. Then unfortunately we have this technical problem, but anyway, the pace was there. He was following the top rider, so that's what we always have to try to do. And okay, we keep going. This is very important, not only for the result, but because this is building up his confidence. He's getting more and more confidence on what is his potential, what he can do, and then hopefully use it.
I think we've seen this year, not only has he taken a step on track, but his preparation off track has changed quite a bit. Mentally, he looks as prepared, but also as calm as he's ever been as well. How much has gone into getting Raul to the position where he can start to build forward?
Yeah, no, he also changed his preparation, his training way, pay more attention on the diet, what he's eating. So for sure there is more work, different type of work there between races. So he's a guy that is working very hard, training in the gym, doing everything he has to do. So this is hopefully paying off. Like last year, maybe he was suffering a little bit by the end of the race. This year he's in much better shape. So everything helps, you know, in this tough competition.
Been an up and down weekend for I. On Friday, he was fantastic, very nearly inside that top 10, but for whatever reason, he just couldn't piece it together yesterday. Just talk us through what happened with him.
Yeah, no, it was very good on Friday. Actually, was a top 8 in the ideal lap time. We just missed the the qualifying for a bit, but then on Friday morning he lost a little bit the feeling, and then you go straight in a qualifying, and there's not so much time to recover. But I'm fully confident. I mean, eye is what we have seen at the beginning of the season. We're going through up and down, which is normally in a rookie season, but I'm very much confident on his potential and on his talent, and we just have to keep working, and I think you will see again.
Just finally, it's the first weekends that both riders have been fully updated with the RSGP that we've seen Marco and Jorge use for the last couple of Grand Prix. Just how big of a step is that? Because Jorge in particular, when he had that test in Massano ahead of his comeback, noticed that it was a big step forward from what he tried previously.
Yeah, it is. Especially Raul, he really appreciated the new aero package, helping him also in cornering, speed and whatever. So it's yeah, for sure it helps. It helps. Also, we have the new device. Okay, yesterday we had a problem, but anyway, it's something that it helps more at the start of the race and in acceleration. So for sure, these are improvements that helps. And so I'm happy also that Raul was able to use it. As I say, you don't see in the results, but it's getting there. It will be there.
I'm sure he will do. Davide, thank you for your time. Have a good race.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Thanks very much, Jack. As always, a very interesting interview with Trackhouse boss Davide Brivio, who has to take some credit himself, I think, for this little bit of Raul renaissance, because they had a bit of a heart-to-heart, didn't they? Was it in the Sachsenring or in Bagnaia? A Thursday meeting where Ralph Vinales personally thanked and went out of his way to thank Davide Brivio, who has had his back at Trackhouse, hasn't he, over the last 18 months or so. And finally, the hard work is starting to bear some fruit. Let's hope that there's no technical issues which curtail maybe another top 6 challenge as far as Raul is concerned. A top 6 yesterday with Fernandez's absence, which was completed by Fermin Aldeguer, who, just like fellow Ducati rider Pecco Bagnaia, had a monumental scare off the line, Lewis.
Yeah, he went exactly the same way, and that was directly left as Pecco Bagnaia off the line. But at least from Aldeguer's point of view, he was able to regroup from that. Had a very entertaining, almost sprint-long battle with Enea Bastianini on the Tech 3 KTM for 6th and 7th. A battle that the Grossini rookie won and came through to finish in the top 6. It is going to be very interesting, isn't it? We're going to have to keep a close eye on them off the line. Of course, the track has in general had quite a good wash from the overnight rain, so it might be a little bit dirty and a bit dusty on the grid. And you must imagine those starting on the pit wall side will be a little bit apprehensive at the start of this Austrian Grand Prix to hopefully get their bikes cleanly off the line.
Well, it's been a pretty cloudy race day here in Austria, but as you can see off in the distance over the Styrian hillsides, we have some welcome blue skies to report. There was a few fears today that maybe rain might be disrupting proceedings, and we might get another 2021 flag-to-flag classic, which right on cue was won by none other than the brilliant Brad Binder. What a Grand Prix that was here 4 years ago. I'm not sure Binder can still quite believe how he got that victory signed, sealed and delivered when he took the bold gamble to stay out on slick tyres when the heavens had opened here in this part of Central Europe. As always in the Red Bull Ring, there's a rather spectacular aerial display keeping the fans entertained. I have to say, you're not going to get me in that helicopter doing those kind of aerobatics. That is just not for me. I'll take a hard pass on that one. Joan Mir, 13th behind his factory Honda teammate Luca Marini at the checkered flag in the sprint yesterday. I don't want to be seeing these pictures. I mean, it's very, very spectacular.
Yeah, this chair's moving underneath me.
You have to admire the absolute brilliant skills of the pilots at the controls of that helicopter. But I'm starting to feel giddy just watching it, to be honest.
Yeah. All of a sudden, not going to be enjoying my flight back from Graz to Barcelona quite as much later in this evening.
I'll pass on dinner, thank you.
Yeah, I think I'll walk back to Barcelona over the course of tomorrow, having seen that. Well, here we go then. The pit lane is now open. As always, 25 minutes before the Grand Prix gets underway, we'll make our way out to the grid. And of course, with the dry conditions, which look like they're going to prevail for this Austrian Grand Prix, your mind then goes to tyre choice. We did see everybody with the exception of Johann Zarco yesterday going for the soft rear tyre. Zarco did go for the medium rear tyre, which could well prove to be quite a smart decision when we get into the Grand Prix, with the information that he will have been able to glean at the World Championship point that he scored as a result in 9th place yesterday. We're expecting many riders to switch across from the soft to the medium rear tyre.
Well, we are blessed with so many MotoGP icons and legends here in Austria this weekend. We've already seen Dani Pedrosa and Casey Stoner. One rider who locked horns several times with those two back in his heyday was none other than 9 times world champion Valentino Rossi, who joins Jack.
Yeah, it's been a great legends reunion this weekend. Valentino, yourself, Casey, Danny, Andrea, all here enjoying the Red Bull Ring event. Let's just touch on a couple of your riders. Firstly, Marco on pole position. He mentioned after qualifying the work that you did with him on Friday night. Again, I imagine you were talking with him to try and get him ready for the race. What do you rate his chances are for this Grand Prix?
Yes, you know, it's always a pleasure to see all the legends like Stoner, Luca Cadalora, also Dovi and Dani. And yeah, about the race, we work a bit with Best, always try to improve. And the pole position was great, but in the sprint he missed a little bit of pace for fight for the podium. So we try to improve that, some small details. This morning the warm-up was fantastic. So we hope that they can be competitive and we can see a good race.
It was obviously a tough day for Pecco yesterday. How important can you be to keep his spirits high and to keep him motivated?
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's a great shame. It's very harsh because you know, he waits for the good result and he looks that he have everything. But yesterday it looks like the tire doesn't work well. We hope that today we can do better.
Just finally on your two riders, on Frankie and Didier, starting a little bit further back, it's going to be an important first lap for them to try and get settled in.
Yes, like you say, you know, MotoGP now is very important, the first corner and the first 2 or 3 laps. They have to gain same position because the start position is not fantastic, and after we will see.
Great to see you. Enjoy the race. Thank you. Ciao.
Yeah, great stuff, Jack. Really enjoyed that little chat with the GOAT, the greatest of all time in many people's views, Valentino Rossi. Do you know what? We could have a heck of an all-stars race here this weekend, coming with Dani Pedrosa, Casey Stoner, Valentino Rossi and Andrea Dovizioso present. It's not very often we get the cream of the crop in MotoGP all together. One circuit. I guess all we're kind of missing really is Jorge Lorenzo. I know is busy back in Barcelona working with our Spanish TV colleagues at DAZN. We are just about to see the slowest lap you will ever witness in MotoGP around the Red Bull Ring. Very, very fuel thirsty is this 4.34 kilometre circuit. Fuel consumption is a factor at play around this 2.7 miles layout. Hard braking and then brutal hard acceleration out of turn 1, out of 2B, the exit of the chicane, out of the first gear, turn 3, and then out of turn 10 as well. You've got to get your numbers spot on. Make sure you have as much of the power available to you for as long as you possibly can in this Grand Prix. Marc Marquez, 4th on the grid. Can he make it? 6 successive double victories. He has been so dominant so far in 2025. Throughout the whole of last year, where he moved over to Gresini Ducati, where he made the move, he told the journalists apparently earlier on this weekend that he actually rode in Gresini Racing last year for nothing. He took almost a €20 million pay cut to try and revitalise his Grand Prix career. He said the only money he took last year was from his personal sponsorship deals. Gives an indication of just how much Marc Marquez wanted to prove to the world that his best days were not behind him, that he was over all of his horrific injury nightmare. Some decision he took, wasn't it, to make that switch over to the Gresini Ducati, because he has already scored 1 point more in the opening 12.5 rounds of the season than he did in the whole of last year. Some story for the 93.
But he doesn't start from the front row of the grid today. Marco Bezzecchi, Alex Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. Remember, Alex Marquez has a long lap penalty to serve. Marc Marquez, Enea Bastianini and Fermin Aldeguer on row 2. Pedro Acosta holding the KTM hopes from 7th. He starts on the 3rd row ahead of Frankie Morbidelli and Raul Fernandez. As you look at the second half of the grid, which includes 12th place Johann Zarco, let's head down to the grid and hear from the Frenchman who's talking to Jack.
Yeah, who's just got a wasp on his right shoulder I'm trying to get rid of. There we go, nicely done. Johann, it looks as though it's going to be a tough one for everyone, going into the unknown a little bit. It's far cooler than what it's been all weekend. How much of an impact will that be, and how do you see the race planning out?
Yesterday was good to do a nice sprint with the medium rear, and we had good information for it, because I guess that everyone will be on the medium rear for this long race. There is a high consumption of tire, and also there is this consumption of the fuel on this track, because we are using full power in all the straights. So I'm curious to see how gonna be the beginning of the race, if I will have a bit of march compared to the others or not, if the pace will be slow enough to feel comfortable, and then see how to control till the end. Maybe a bit of rain can come, but I think we will keep it drier till the end, and the rain will come a bit later. But we cannot expect very high position, a top position today. But at least in the top 10 would be a great result to get some points.
Good luck.
Merci.
Yeah, merci beaucoup, Johann Zarco. Always good to hear from the Frenchman, who's always gracious with his time down with Jack on the grid pre-race in MotoGP. A successful summer break, wasn't it, for Zarco? As he successfully defended his Suzuka 8-hour crown. He was getting some brownie points as far as HRC are concerned. You'd imagine that behind winning the MotoGP World Championship, the Suzuka 8-hour is the one race of the year that the Japanese brands really do want to win. And he made a good point there. He was the only rider in the sprint yesterday that ran the medium rear tyre, so he's got a lot of data and information collected on the medium rear, because that initial graphic, the initial information we have as far as Michelin are concerned, all riders participating in this Austrian Grand Prix are picking the medium front, medium rear tyre.
There is the legendary Casey Stoner, 2007 world champion with Ducati, 2011 world champion with Honda, and of course it's an achievement that Marc Marquez is looking to emulate this season, winning the world championship for those two respective manufacturers. Pecco Bagnaia, pensive, looking rather calm in the box, but he'll be thinking, no doubt, about the start of this Grand Prix and getting that Ducati off the line, and just hoping that his rear tyre perhaps behaves a little bit better than it did yesterday. We saw Casey Stoner on the grid a second ago. We can now hear from him. He's talking to Jack.
Yeah, fresh from our Legends laps. Casey, who won that one? It looked like a close fight out there. Even our good friend Simon Crafar getting his elbows out.
Yeah, I think the two strokes won, in my eyes anyway. It was to share a track with them, and unfortunately the 500s were gone by the time I got to MotoGP, and it was one of the biggest disappointments for me. So to be able to share a track and smell the fumes coming out the back of those and just watch what they were able to do, it's yeah, it was a beautiful thing.
I spoke to you on Friday, and one of my favourite quotes from that chat about Marc in particular was, hard work beats talent until talent decides to work hard, and right now that's exactly what we're seeing. This could be 6 consecutive Grand Prix where he's won the sprint and the Grand Prix. It's sensational form that he's in.
It really is. There's nothing you can say that's going to take away what he's done and what he's come back from. That's the other thing, that there's a lot of other great champions in the past, and it's something why I revered, Mick doing in the way that I did, because coming back from what he did to then go and win 5 straight was phenomenal. And Marc coming back from his injuries and still having even some small issues with it now, and yet he's overcome all of them to the point where he's kind of dominating and doing an incredible job. So it's really fantastic to see.
Just finally, on Marco Bezzecchi, he was really thankful of the fact that you came to chat with him yesterday. What did you say to him to try and help him out today, and what do you make of his chances?
No, I'm not there to help him out today. The other day I saw something in just watching on the screen that I felt might help him a little bit, and him and the team and Valentino obviously spoke as well and got things sorted. So he's done a fantastic job. He was also quick this morning with a couple other bits that he probably learned from yesterday, and we'll see what happens. But Marc is going to be a formidable opponent to stop, especially in the later stages of the race when everybody starts struggling with the rear. It's basically trying to mitigate the amount of electronics that are actually working. You can rely on them all you want, but they're not as good as what a rider can be, and this is why Mark is showing his talent, and he's a little ahead of those electronics and able to utilise a lot more of the power.
It's great to see you here. I think there's an old foe, a former sparring partner, Valentino, that's wanting to say hello.
Thanks very much, Jack. Thanks very much to Casey. I don't know what a shot this is. Two absolute legends. Two of the very best to ever take part in the Grand Prix arena. This is Premier Class race number 1000, and the previous 999. What did those two produce? Some great battles, some great races. Your mind goes immediately, doesn't it, back to Laguna Seca in 2008. I think Valentino's just sort of saying there to Casey, let's have a little catch-up after the race. Brilliant, love it, absolutely love it. Nothing but great respect, mutual respect between two riders who back in the day gave MotoGP fans some of the most heated battles we've ever seen. Who will ever forget the quote of Casey having the temerity to say to Rossi's face, your ambition outweighed your talent, when they had that collision at Jerez in, what, 2011 in the rain conditions.
To say that to Valentino.
They were great rivals back in the day, and now nothing but great respect between the pair of them as we continue our build-up then to this Austrian Grand Prix. And as Casey said there's so much to admire about Marc Marquez, but he's well on course to complete arguably the greatest comeback ever in Grand Prix history. There's been some home Grand Prix weekends so far for KTM. Pedro Acosta on the sprint yesterday. He was a double podium finisher in Brno before the summer break. Surely there are huge expectations on a repeat here today in Spielberg. Let's get the thoughts of KTM boss Pit Byros with Jack.
Yeah, I've got a feeling today, Pit, that Pedro is just going to have that little bit extra motivation. He's going to be all in to try and pick up a massive result for all of these Austrian fans.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's so cool that we had the great performance already yesterday, so we could repeat what started in Brno, or started a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, Pedro yesterday, he made an incredible first lap, and then he made a pass, so third place was yesterday well deserved, but also kind of the maximum. I mean, the two brothers were really strong, but also we found still some improvement from yesterday to today. So let's see. From 7, you need to make some early passes, otherwise it will be very difficult to fight for the podium, but that's definitely his plan. So let's hope we're going to survive the first 2 laps in a really good way.
Good luck, have a fun one.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. This is the reason why Alex Marquez is facing a long lap penalty in this 28-lap battle. Colliding with Joan Mir very early on in that Grand Prix of Czechia. This one spilled over into the service road as they had a very frank exchange of opinions, as you would expect, because that was the 3rd race in a row that poor old Mir was taken out by another rider. Of course, he was unable to avoid Fermin Aldeguer's crash Gresini Ducati in Assen. He was cleaned out by Ayagura in the Sachsenring, and then taken out by Alex in Brno last time out. 393 points then, the 93 has taken so far this year. Already won more than the whole of 2024. Already 20 wins in the books for Mark so far this season. But one that has eluded him for so many years is right here in Spielberg. He has never won in MotoGP around this circuit. 96 career wins, 70 wins in MotoGP. Strange to think, though, he comes to Austria winless at this great venue. Can he set that record straight? Will this no longer be known as a bogey circuit for the number 93? It was 123 points clear now in the World Championship.
I feel the start of the Grand Prix is much more important for Alex Marquez than it is for Marc, even if Alex is starting from 2nd place, because of course Alex Marquez has that long lap penalty to serve. If he gets away poorly, then it increases his chances of returning to the track from that long lap penalty in the middle of the pack. So important for Alex, if he can, to try and get ahead of Bezzecchi, get the early lead and try and stretch the field out so that he can still feed back in somewhere near the podium once he takes that long lap.
We always look forward to the pre-race grid ceremony and the national anthem. I have to say, I'm looking forward to what's coming up shortly from the Austrian contingent, because we're told that the national anthem will be played by a group called Velvet Wasted, which I have to say is a fantastic name. So that's all coming up in about a minute's time. But yeah, here we go. The Marc Marquez coming late to the grid. He took Ducati's 27th successive sprint win yesterday. If he's able to win today, or any Ducati rider is able to win here this afternoon, it will be a 10th Grand Prix success here in Spielberg for the Bologna brand. That would make it their most successful track in their history. The Austrian national flag parachuted in to Spielberg. Of course, it's been such a popular fixture on the Grand Prix calendar since we came back here in 2016. Some shot, isn't it? Always a great pre-race show here in Austria as the parachutist drops in, and we pause for the national anthem. So the national anthem completed by the absolutely brilliantly named Velvet Wasted, a modern four-piece rock band from the south of Austria. Let's hope Alex Marquez is not going to waste an opportunity for another Grand Prix podium here this afternoon, despite his long lap. Let's get the thoughts of Gresini boss Michele Massini, who's with Jack.
Yeah, it's a complicated one for Alex today, Michele, with that long lap penalty. Has he got some tactics in mind in terms of when he wants to take it to try and make his life as easy as possible?
We'll see if at the beginning of the second lap will be already safe to make it, but for sure the big target is when we rejoin the track to keep focus on keep the right rhythm to maybe gain some an advantage from the other. But I think that we have the speed to at least finish in the top 5 today.
Will you try and help him from the pit wall as when's the best opportunity to take it, or is it solely up to him to decide?
Always to him to decide, but we will show for the 3 times the laps that he can do the long lap penalty.
And just finally for Firmin, obviously had some problems off the start yesterday. Confident that the track is clean enough, or have you had to make some changes to try and make sure that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I'm more confident for today. I hope that will not happen again, and also I have to say that the consumption of the rear tire yesterday was very, very good, so it means that today we can make a really good race with him.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks to Michele Massini. So the information they're going to give him is going to be, you've got 3 laps, 2 laps and 1 lap to serve the long lap penalty. Once the information is put on the screens, which will not be before the start, to stop Alex Marquez just coming straight up through the long lap penalty loop on lap 1, he will then have 3 opportunities to go past the long lap penalty loop before he gets a double long lap penalty. And you feel he'll try and leave it as long as possible if he gets away cleanly, and try and let the field naturally spread out and give himself as few riders to try and overtake back again once he's out of the long lap penalty loop. As always, a Very fervent and excited and energetic crowd here at the Red Bull Ring. The annual shot of the red and white flags, the mosaic of the Austrian flag, just under 50,000 here on race day, with many, of course, cheering on KTM at their home Grand Prix. Pedro Acosta desperate to try and give them something to cheer. Is he the biggest threat to the Ducatis then, who start second, third and fourth on the front two rows? Davide Tardozzi speaking to Jack.
Yeah, he's just given his final words to Mark. What did he say, Davide?
Nothing special, but it's between me and him, no problem. No, just to relax and to enjoy the long race.
In terms of Pecco, obviously, he's going to have to do a much better off the line today. Have you had to tweak anything to make sure that doesn't happen?
No, we haven't investigated properly yet. We will do a job together with Michelin, but we will do it after the race, because now it's time to think to this race, and we'll see.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jack. Thanks to Ducati boss Davide Tardozzi. 2022, 2023, 2024, Pecco Bagnaia has prevailed here at the Red Bull Ring. He's been victorious only once so far in 2025, and that was a bit of a present, wasn't it, as well, when Marc Marquez, his factory Ducati teammate, crashed out of a commanding lead at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Marc Marquez then fourth on the grid. Previous occasions when he qualified fourth at Silverstone and in Assen, the only other two races prior to Austria where he'd found himself off the front row, he was able to finish on the podium in both the sprint and the Grand Prix. 11 successive wins for Marc, quite an astonishing record. At the moment he's looking like a bit of an invincible force at the top of the World Championship. And Alex Marquez with work to do anyway to try and work out the conundrum of beating Marc over 28 laps, but that challenge made even more complicated by the fact that after the collision with Mir in Brno a few weeks ago, he will have to serve one long lap. That's going to cost him, you feel, 2 or 3 seconds. You can't really give 2 tenths to Marc, can you, in this kind of form that he's currently in?
Which means that unless he gets an extraordinary launch off the line and pulls away in the early stages, he's going to have to get some overtaking done in this Grand Prix. And it's when he's had to get overtaking done when we've generally seen Alex Marquez have those kind of collisions. Think back to Qatar, of course.
So, are we about to witness a first Grand Prix of Austria victory at 32-year-old Spaniard Marc Marquez? He heads row 2 in 4th place. On the front row is our winner here for the last 3 years. Is it going to be a 4th successive victory for Pecco Bagnaia with a long lap penalty looming? Alex Marquez goes from the middle of the front row in 2nd place, but on pole position, it's Marco Bezzecchi who leads the field away on the Aprilia.